Did they ever tell you that you were special? And somehow, that made you afraid of becoming ordinary? It's strange, isn't it? How something as sweet as praise can plant a seed of fear so quietly inside you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't know it was happening. But somewhere along the way, being gifted started to feel like a trap. You were the one who caught on quick. The one who spoke like an adult before your time. The one who always knew what the grown-ups were feeling, even when they didn't say it out loud. You were the kid who got the gold stars, who made the teacher smile, who did things better than most. And maybe that became your worth, because every time they said you were special, you saw it in their eyes. A flicker of relief, pride, hope, and so you held on to it. Like a lifeline. Like, if I can just keep being this good, maybe they'll keep loving me. But there's something they didn't tell you. That being special can become a performance. And when it does, it's no longer about joy. It's about survival. You started measuring your worth by your excellence, by the praise, by how effortlessly you could do things that others found hard. And soon, ease became your identity. Not effort, not growth, but the illusion of effortless brilliance. So now, when you think about trying something new, something where you might fail, something you won't be perfect at from the start, it paralyzes you. Because deep down, you're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of being seen trying. Afraid of revealing that maybe you were never special, just scared. Scared of what would happen if the applause stopped. This fear, this quiet pressure, it isn't laziness. It isn't procrastination. It's grief. The grief of a child who was praised for blooming early and never given permission to struggle. The grief of someone who equated identity with achievement and doesn't know who they are without the gold star. And it's not your fault. You were trained to perform, to be the bright one, the gifted one, the "you're going places" kid. But nobody taught you how to be. When you're not dazzling, when you're just a beginner. Nobody told you that learning is messy, that even the most gifted people feel clumsy when they grow. Because growth means shedding old skin. And that never looks graceful. But your childhood self doesn't know that. They just know the look of disappointment in someone's eyes when you fall short. They remember the silence that followed, the one time you didn't get it right. And so, they protect you by never letting you try. It's not laziness. It's defense. It's your ego, built like a shell, guarding the softest part of you. The one who wants to be loved, even when they're not impressive. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to win approval. But beneath that mask, there's a child who's still holding their breath, still hoping that being the best will finally feel like being enough. But it doesn't, does it? No amount of praise quiets the fear. Because it was never about being praised. It was about being safe. And now, that safety is tied to a script that says, don't mess up. Don't try if you're not sure. Don't let them see you doubt yourself. But here's something your younger self never knew. And maybe they're ready to hear it now. You don't have to be exceptional to be real. You don't have to impress anyone to be worthy. And it's okay, more than okay, to do things badly for a while. To try something and fail. And still be you. You are not the praise you got. You are not the labels they gave you. You are not a series of achievements hanging on the walls of someone else's expectations. You are someone who deserves the right to explore, to experiment, to take a breath without knowing what comes next. That anxiety you feel when you start something new. That tightness in your chest. That endless loop of, what if I'm not good enough? That's not fear of failure. It's fear of identity loss. Because trying means risking the version of you that everyone admired. But here's the quiet truth they never told you. The version of you they loved was never the whole story. There's a you who stumbles. A you who forgets. A you who doesn't shine, but still shows up. And that version, the unpolished, uncertain one, is just as sacred. Adler once said, to be human means to feel inferior. And what he meant was not that we're doomed to self-doubt, but that the striving, the not yet, is what connects us. You've spent so long trying to stay above it, to stay ahead, to be the exception, that you forgot how deeply healing it is to be part of the ordinary, to be someone who learns slowly, who fails publicly, who doesn't always know what they're doing, but tries anyway. You see, healing isn't in the moment you win. It's in the moment you try. Without needing to win. It's in the moment you write the sentence. That isn't perfect. The sketch that looks nothing like you imagined. The voice crack when you speak your truth out loud. It's in the bravery of being seen. In your unfinished form. And I know, your nervous system remembers every moment. You were only loved when you excelled. So of course, trying feels like danger. Of course, you freeze. Of course, you scroll instead. Of course, you wait for the perfect moment that never comes. Because part of you still believes that love must be earned through brilliance. But love, real love, is what holds you after the performance. It's what says, I see you in the mess. And I don't need you to impress me. And maybe you've never fully had that. Maybe you've always had to earn your belonging by being clever, or wise, or useful. And now, your body believes that if you're not exceptional, you'll be invisible. But hear me now. You are allowed to be average at something. You are allowed to be a beginner. You are allowed to suck at things that make your soul light up. Because life isn't a resume. It's not a highlight reel. It's a slow, sacred unfolding of all the versions of you you've been too afraid to meet. The perfectionist in you isn't arrogant, it's terrified. It's a child who thought that being the best was the only safe place. And that child doesn't need discipline. They need gentleness. They need to be told, you can try, even if you might fall. You can show up, even if you're unsure. You can be loved, even when you're learning. You've held your breath for so long, waiting to feel ready. But readiness doesn't come from knowing. It comes from allowing. Allowing yourself to show up imperfect. Allowing the work to be messy. Allowing the silence between efforts to be enough. And slowly, the fear begins to soften. Not because you've conquered it, but because you've stopped hiding from it. Because you've sat beside it, like an old friend, and you've said, I see you, but I have things I want to do anyway. That is the quiet rebellion. The healing. The returning home. You don't have to shine all the time. You don't have to dazzle. You just have to be. With all your doubts and hopes. And unfinished dreams. Because the truest kind of special is not what you were told you had to be. It's what you become when you finally let go of the script. And maybe you're ready now to take that step. Not to prove anything. Not to earn your place. But to meet the part of you that never needed to be extraordinary to be enough. If this resonated, you're not alone. Let me know what part felt real to you. And if you're still sitting there, frozen between the desire to begin and the terror of being seen not yet good, I want you to know something. That stillness you feel, it's not failure. It's the threshold. It's the space between the self you've known and the self you haven't yet dared to become. It's sacred. It's uncomfortable. It's where all true things begin. You are not stuck. You are in the ache of transition. And transitions, by nature, are silent, slow, invisible to others, but deeply felt by you. No one can see the moment a bud decides to bloom. No one hears the instant a caterpillar gives in to the dark. But inside, everything is shifting. That's what's happening to you. And the world will not always celebrate that kind of bravery. The quiet kind. The trembling hand kind. The, I'm trying, even though I'm scared, kind. But I see it. I see you watching the same blank page. For days, maybe weeks. I see you circling the thing you want, but telling yourself you're not ready. I see the tabs you keep open. The ones that whisper someday. I see the notes in your phone you never sent. The drawings you never posted. The ideas you never gave permission to breathe. Not because you don't care, but because you care so much. It hurts. Because doing it badly feels like a betrayal of the person everyone said you were. But can I tell you something tender? Trying is not a betrayal. Trying is the truest form of love. To yourself. It's saying, I am worth the risk of imperfection. I am worth the discomfort of beginning. I am worth meeting the world as I really am, not as they expect me to be. And yes, some people will only love the polished version of you. They will love the clever replies, the poised words, the filtered strengths. But you don't need everyone to love you. You just need the right ones to see the unedited, in-process you, and stay anyway. That kind of love, it doesn't come from performance. It comes from truth. And truth always begins in the quiet. In the long pauses. In the shaky firsts. In the voice that breaks mid-sentence. But keeps speaking. So if your voice breaks, let it. If your hands shake, let them. If your thoughts scatter, gather them softly, like fallen leaves, not to fix them, but to witness them. Because healing is not in the doing. It's in the being with. Being with your fears. Being with your younger self. Being with the grief of not feeling ready. And gently choosing to act anyway. There's a story inside you that's never been told. Because you thought it had to be perfect first. It doesn't. It only has to be yours. No one else has to understand it. No one else has to approve. This is between you and the version of you that's been waiting quietly behind the curtain. Not to perform, but to live. Not to impress, but to breathe. And slowly, with each breath, you remember, you are not the applause. You are not the product. You are not the perfect sentence. Or the flawless move. Or the final draft. You are the whole trembling, brave becoming. The inhale before the first word. The pause before the first brushstroke. The silence before the song. You are allowed to exist there. You are allowed to try. Not for recognition, but for reclamation. To reclaim the joy you lost when everything had to be impressive. To reclaim the wonder of learning with no audience. To reclaim the softness of being allowed to grow. And when the fear speaks, because it will, when it whispers, what if they don't like it? What if you're not good enough? What if you fail? You can place a hand over your heart and answer, then I'll still be here. Still breathing. Still worthy. Still me. Because praise is fleeting. Perfection is impossible. But presence is everything. The kind of presence that holds yourself with the same tenderness you once reserved only for the moments you succeeded. Now, you extend it to the moments you try. To the moments you fall. To the moments you feel so small. You wonder if you ever mattered at all. You do, not because of what you produce, but because of what you carry. The courage to stay, to try, to begin again. That's what makes you special now. Not the praise you were once given, but the grace you now offer yourself. And if your hands are still trembling, that's okay. Maybe trembling hands are the beginning of something real. Because maybe the real strength, the kind no one claps for, is staying soft in a world that told you you had to earn your place. Maybe the real strength is doing the thing anyway, with your fear sitting right beside you. Not banished, not silenced, just gently acknowledged like an old companion who once tried to keep you safe. By keeping you small, you've outgrown that safety now. You're ready for the open field. The one without rails, without lines, without judges waiting to score your every move. You're not playing their game anymore. This is yours now. And I hope you let it be messy. I hope you write things that don't land. I hope you make art that no one understands. I hope you lose track of the plot. But keep going anyway. Because some stories aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be felt. And some souls, like yours, are not here to perform. They're here to wake things up. To stir hearts. To make people remember what it feels like to be human again. Even if your own heart has forgotten how to beat freely. Even if your voice comes out like a whisper. Even if your light is buried under years of shoulds and not yets. It's still in there. Beneath the pressure. Beneath the fear. Beneath the layers of false belonging you wrapped around yourself just to feel safe. It's there. That unshaped, untouched, unapologetically curious part of you. The part that doesn't care if it gets it right. It just wants to play. To explore. To feel. Let that part come forward now. Let it speak. Let it build something crooked and beautiful. Let it run, barefoot and laughing, through the fields of your unexpressed dreams. Because you were never meant to carry the weight of being the gifted one. You were meant to be whole. All of you. The glowing parts. The shattered parts. The awkward, unsure, quietly brave parts. That's the truth they didn't tell you. That being special was never about standing above. It was about daring to stand as yourself. Even when no one's watching. Especially then. Because you are not here to be the best at something. You're here to belong to yourself. And that begins now. In this breath. In this tiny, trembling yes. In this barely whispered decision. To start again. Not because you know how. But because something inside you can no longer stand the silence of never trying. And maybe the first step won't feel like flight. Maybe it will feel like falling. But falling into something real is better than floating above something hollow. So let yourself fall. Let yourself begin. Let yourself not know how it ends. Because this time, you're not performing. You're not proving. You're not waiting for someone else to say. You're allowed. This time, you're the one who says it. You're the one who stays. With yourself. With your fear. With your becoming. You're the one who builds safety. Not from applause, but from presence. And in that kind of presence, you will find something the younger you never had. Freedom. Not the freedom to be perfect, but the freedom to be you. Without permission. Without performance. Without the need to always be special. Because maybe, just maybe, being fully human is the most extraordinary thing you'll ever do. And if this resonated, you're not alone. Let me know what part felt real to you. And if there's still a quiet voice inside you, the one asking, but what if I'm not enough when I stop being exceptional? I want to tell you something so simple. It might sound like nothing at all, but it is everything. You were always enough. Even before the praise. Even before the talent. Even before they gave you names like gifted, smart, advanced, promising. You were enough in the silence. In the ordinary. In the moment you were simply a child who wanted to be seen. But instead of being seen, you were praised. And so you disappeared into the role. They applauded the loudest. Maybe they didn't mean harm. Maybe they just didn't know how to hold you without shaping you. But now, you do know. You know the weight of shaping. You know what it's like to be defined by admiration and abandoned the moment you're no longer impressive. You know what it's like to be a child playing a grown-up's idea of success and calling it identity. And now you're waking up from that. And yes, awakening hurts. Because every time you try to step off the pedestal, there's a part of you that panics. Who am I if I'm not shining? Who will stay if I'm no longer impressive? What if they only loved the mask and not me? But that question, painful as it is your doorway back to truth. Because real belonging doesn't demand you shine. It welcomes your shadows. Real love doesn't hinge on your highlights. It lives in the mundane, in the quiet, in the days when you don't feel like showing up, but do anyway. So if you're waiting to feel like your old self again, maybe stop. That self, the one who dazzled on cue, who feared mistakes like they were betrayals, who couldn't breathe unless someone was watching, that self is tired. Let them rest. Let them dissolve. Because you don't need to be your old self again. You're allowed to become someone new. Someone softer, slower, less impressive, maybe, but more honest. Someone who doesn't just produce beauty, but feels it, lives it, even in the cracks. Especially in the cracks. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you were praised for being. Not who you were conditioned to be. Not who they expected you to become. But who you are. Beneath the roles. Beneath the polish. Beneath the practiced ease. Who you are. When you're no longer performing. That's the self you're returning to. That's the self you can finally love. Not for their talent. Not for their achievements. But for their aliveness. And aliveness doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs room, space, permission. And maybe you can give that to yourself now. Even if it's shaky. Even if it feels like betrayal to the version of you who always knew the answer. Always had it together. Always smiled when they were praised. Let this be your first act of rebellion. Not doing it well, but doing it anyway. Starting again. Not from the top, but from the root. From the part of you that says, I'm allowed to begin. Even if no one claps. Even if no one watches. Even if I'm the only one who sees. That is what healing looks like. Not the applause, but the courage to live unperformed. The bravery to meet yourself in your most unfinished form. And say, I'll stay with you here. Because that's what you needed all along. Not more praise. Not more pressure. Not more proof of being special. Just presence. Gentle, patient, unearned presence. So as you sit with your fear, as you inch toward the things you once froze before touching, let this be your new rhythm. Not perfection, but permission. Not achievement, but allowance. Not admiration, but authenticity. And let that be enough. No, let that be everything.